Now I'm asking a very simple question. I don't even want to shout. Which religion believes that God came to earth and is a man and claimed to be...
Bro, look, there's no difference between Allah and the Dajjal.
Look at the camera. Turn the camera to these guys. Turn the camera. Bro, the Muslims are in shock.
Because they don't know.
Now,
Ali Dawah.
guys, do you believe Jesus is God?
Of course. Do you believe that Allah is God?
You know you said...
Do you believe that Allah is God?
You remember you asked me, do you pray...
Do you believe that Allah is God?
Do you remember? Yes. Do you remember you said to me, Ali, do you pray...
have hands like
do you remember you said to me, do you pray facing the heavens? I'm doing it now. Oh, Allah help me.
But when Allah
now,
what's the difference between him and the Dajjal?
Guys, do you know why they're avoiding it?
What's
because
the
they
difference between
believe...
him and the Antichrist?
Let's not shout over each other. They believe... okay, sorry. They believe... I don't want to give any excuse. They believe Jesus was a man. Was he a man?
He's both. Fully man, fully God.
Okay. He was a man.
You believe Allah is God?
And he is God.
Here.
Now I'm asking a simple question. The Antichrist, when he comes back, and he's got powers, because the Bible says he's got powers, he's going to do some things, you know, that normal people can do, and he comes and says, I am God.
Like divide the moon?
Would the Christians or the Muslims fall for his trap?
The Muslims.
The Muslims.
Muhammad says the Muslims will fall for it. What are you talking about?
I know that. I'm talking about generally.
In the Hadiths, Allah is described as having a face, 2 hands, and 2 eyes with which he sees. On the last day, he is said to reveal his shin. These details are not treated as allegory by most traditional scholars. They are taken quite literally. Muhammad even draws the sole distinction between Allah and the Dajjal with one simple line. The Dajjal is blind in one eye, but Allah is not. That's the entire difference. From that point, the absurdity becomes clear. If the only gap between the Creator and his impostor is the number of working eyes, then the very idea of deity has been reduced to anatomy. Imagine someone appears with 2 healthy eyes. He performs impressive signs and wonders, things that seem beyond human ability. Then he says, I am your God. According to Muhammad's own teaching, this person wouldn't be the Dajjal because he's not blind in one eye. But that leads to a serious problem. If the only test is whether or not he has one eye, then what's stopping someone from being accepted as God just because he meets the physical criteria? If that's the standard, then anyone with the right appearance could make the claim and be believed. When we turn to the Quran for a deeper safeguard, we find none. The Quran never portrays a personal relationship between Allah and his people. It offers no emphasis on divine character, no focus on love, faithfulness, or humility, only sparse descriptions that hadiths later flesh out in tangible form. That is the very snare. Once Allah is given a physical frame and the Dajjal is drawn in similar strokes, the line between the two blurs. Christian faith moves in an entirely different direction. We do not know God by his appearance, but by his saving love. We recognize him through the cross, the ultimate sign of self-giving mercy. We see him in prophecies fulfilled, in a sinless life, in a death that substitutes, and in a resurrection that secures eternal life. No one who claims to be God yet shuns the cross can deceive us, because genuine love cannot be counterfeited by sheer power.
The question is, if Muslims are not the ones who believe that God took on flesh and became man, it's only the Christians.
Yes.
Why is it then that the Muslims, according to Muhammad, will get deceived by the Dajjal?
Exactly.
The Antichrist. Why?
Because not only that, the Hadith says that he will have kufr written in his head.
So what?
So let me finish. Not only that, there will be a boy that will come to him, and he will get the boy and slice him in half and put him back together because he has those powers. We believe the Antichrist will have those powers.
So?
And
you guys don't believe a man is God?
I haven't finished. He will say, do you now believe I am your Lord? And he will say, rather now I believe further you're not my Lord. Why? Because there are Muslims who, look, we have Muslims today who fall into kufr. There are Muslims who go to the grave. They go to the grave of the Prophet Muhammad and think the Prophet Muhammad can help him. What's your point?
Okay.
Now, the point is here though. The Antichrist religion is what? Christianity, because they're the ones that believe God is a man.
Okay, so now let me respond to you on this.
With no disrespect, sister. It's
okay.
no disrespect.
It's
Yeah. Just with no disrespect.
Let me respond now.
Yeah.
Let me respond.
Yeah, what reason?
Now this is the confusion here.
And he.
Thank you. I just let you. Now notice the confusion here.
What's the donation?
According to Muhammad, it's the Muslims that will be confused about the Dajjal.
No, they were misguided and following.
Okay, but
yes.
that's what Muhammad says.
Yes.
But listen, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
Muhammad doesn't say that you'll be deceived by his powers and the miracles that he does. He says, so that you don't get him confused with your Lord. So that you don't get the man, the Dajjal, the Antichrist, who's a man, confused with Allah, which I don't know how you'll do it because Allah's not a man, right? Why would you get confused?
If that was the case.
Let me land it, okay? If just so that you don't get confused, the Antichrist with the Dajjal, he's hen-toed, he's curly-haired, he's short, but just know that your Lord is not one-eyed. He's one-eyed, but Allah, he's not one-eyed. That's how you can tell the difference.
Okay, all right.
So they're
also,
virtually identical. They're identical.
You see where this is coming from? Because they believe God, because you believe God is a man, this is why I don't blame you, because you believe God is a man, you have to apply that to everything you see. All you see is the Trinity. All you see is fully man, fully God. Let me tell you what. Because you've looked at the narration that says hair and this, and you're thinking, hey, we believe God is a man. Hair, eyes. Oh my gosh, that sounds like Jesus. Oh no, Muslims believe in that as well. Nice try. What I'll do is this.
You don't believe he has curly hair?
What I'll do is this, though. Can you imagine? Muslims, do you believe Allah has curly hair?
I don't care about what they believe. I care about what the Hadith says.
Guys, please. Wallahi, is this your best argument?
No, but I'm talking to you. You're not
please,
doing
man.
what I'm saying.
Did you come all the way from America
I came all the way
with this curly argument?
I came all the
Your
way.
arguments are curly. I need to straighten them out.
Okay, can you give me a
Your
curly
arguments are curly, bro.
I'm
trying to straighten it.
All right, so straighten
And by the way, there's nothing but curly hair.
Okay, so what's the problem, Ali Dawah? What's the problem?
Let me tell you about the problem.
Wait, hold on.
You know what I'm going to do?
Why does he give descriptions that he has curly hair, he's hen-toed and short?
You know what I'm going to do?
The term Dajjal is not originally an Islamic concept. It does not appear in the Quran, nor is it ever mentioned by Muhammad in any written revelation. Instead, the narrative of Dajjal emerges and develops later, within the Hadith literature, and only after Muhammad's interaction with Jewish and Christian communities in the Arabian Peninsula, particularly in regions like Greater Syria, Sham, and Yathrib, where apocalyptic literature from the Near East had long been circulating. Long before the rise of Islam, both the Jewish and Eastern Christian worlds had already known of a figure described as a false Messiah, a deceiver of the last days who would claim to be anointed by God, but whose real purpose was to lead people astray and destroy the faithful. In Eastern Christian tradition, especially among Syriac-speaking communities, this figure was called Mashiach Dajjal, which literally means the lying Messiah or false Christ. The word Mashiach means Messiah, and Dajjal comes from the root dagal, meaning to deceive, to cover the truth, or to falsify something so that it appears true. This exact term was later absorbed into Arabic as al-Masih ad-Dajjal, a direct transliteration and Islamized version of the original Syro-Aramaic expression. In Arabic, the word Dajjal comes from a root that means to deceive, to cover up, or to distort the truth. In classical Arabic, Dajjal refers to someone who hides the truth behind falsehood, someone who mixes lies with just enough truth to make them believable. So when Muhammad began to speak of the Dajjal in Hadith, he was not inventing a new theological figure, but rather adopting a well-known idea from the Christian Syriac world and reframing it within his own emerging religious narrative. What's truly striking is that the Quran never mentions the Dajjal, not by name, not by description, not even by hint or suggestion. There is no verse about a one-eyed deceiver, no apocalyptic story of someone claiming to be God in the end times. And that silence tells us something important. The term Dajjal did not originate from Quranic revelation. It entered Islamic tradition from external cultural and theological sources, passed down orally through contact with the people of the book, and later recorded in Hadith. In Christian theology, particularly in the New Testament, the deceiver of the last days is known as the Antichrist. But unlike the Islamic version of Dajjal, who is described with specific physical traits and miraculous powers, the Antichrist is not identified by outward appearance, but by his spirit of deception. He denies the redeeming love of Christ, opposes the cross, and claims divine authority without bringing the truth of the gospel. The focus is not on anatomy, but on corrupt doctrine and rebellion against divine love. But in Islam, Dajjal is identified purely by physical signs. He's blind in one eye, and the word kafir is written on his forehead. Without deep theological or moral filters, Muslims are simply warned, "Your Lord is not one-eyed, so don't be fooled." But such a warning lacks depth and invites confusion. So when we trace the term historically and textually, it becomes clear that Dajjal did not emerge from the Quran. It was borrowed from Syriac Christian tradition and later inserted into Islamic Hadith as part of the eschatological framework. Unfortunately, in that process, the meaning was altered from a spiritual deceiver who leads people away from the truth into a supernatural figure who can supposedly be identified by how many eyes he has. And with that shift came a deep theological confusion right at the heart of Islam itself.